Hey everyone, what's going on? Welcome back to another collection video. So in today's video, I'm just continuing down the alphabet of my existing collection, talking about the next 7 albums which I own alphabetically. So that actually includes 6 bands, so it's a little bit more varied and eclectic than the last video, so hopefully that's a good thing for people. But there's quite a lot to talk about, so I'm going to get straight into it relatively fast. Just before I do that, what I've just put on in the background, this is Enthroned with Tetrakarcist. So if you're not familiar, highly doubtful, Enthroned are a Belgian black metal band, considered quite legendary in the scene. They're one of my favorite bands actually, in terms of black metal. So this was an album which came out after Sabathan had left the band. He was famous for his trademark lead vocals. He was also the bass player, and then guitarist Nornegest actually took over as band leader and the vocalist. So this was, I believe, the first album after that happened. So yeah, this is a damn good one, highly underrated. If you haven't heard this album, definitely check it out. I know a lot of people say, oh, only old Enthroned, only the classic albums. Honestly, give the newer albums a chance. They're pretty amazing, and this one is definitely no exception. So speaking of which, I'm going to do a ranking discographies of this band soon. So more to come on that later. I won't go into much detail now, but definitely check this one out, Enthroned with Tetrakarcist. Okay, so with the 7 albums I'm going to talk about today, I'm not going to go into too much detail because I don't want to take up too much of your time. Also, a lot of these bands I think are famous enough, so I don't need to say too much, so let's see how it goes. Okay, so the first album I'm going to talk about, this is Cradle of Filth with The Principle of Evil Made Flesh. So, legendary debut album by this UK black metal band. They've really exploded worldwide, like become quite a famous band, and well, that's an understatement actually, but really developed their style over the years. This was their debut album, which came out 96, I think, like maybe 94, but I'll leave the details down there. Yeah, but I remember when I first heard this in the mid-90s, I think I heard it in 96, was the fact that what was interesting about it was that it stood out as completely fresh and original, because as a band they sounded very different to their Scandinavian counterparts. Like at that time, obviously, I'm not saying only Scandinavia is where black metal comes from, but at the time, you know, a lot of those famous bands, particularly in Norway and Sweden, that's where the bulk of the famous bands were coming from. But this band stood apart in the sense that they had a different sound. They sounded uniquely English, or certainly different from the Scandinavian bands. So yeah, it just stood out as like, oh wow, this is fresh. And also the fact that they incorporated some new sort of concepts and ideas, like it's vampiric black metal, very much dealing with vampiric themes and incorporating hammer horror and also like a gothic romantic atmosphere, so which evolved even further. But as a debut album, this is absolutely brilliant. Like compared to what they've become, this was actually when they were still quite raw. Like you listen to the guitar and drum sound on this album, it's amazing. Like it's got some raw bite and clatter to it, which I really like, but also they have some very elaborate parts with the keyboards and the pianos and the classical elements and everything. Of course, Danny Filth's lead vocals were and are unique for black metal as well, sort of that high-pitched shriek, and in this album you hear that it's just like, it's got a like raspy snarl, so like really, really good. But yeah, just a nice eclectic mix of so many different atmospheres. Like there's aggression, there's dark atmospheres, there's sort of placid parts to it, you know, like very mellow and atmospheric aspects, and also sort of like very romantic overtones in some parts. So yeah, a bit of everything. And yeah, what I also like about it is they didn't skimp on the packaging. Like the imagery has always been a big part of Cradle of Filth, and I like the set out of this booklet a lot. Like the pictures, the lyrics. Yeah, I remember being very enamored by this when I first heard it, like back in the 90s. But yeah, anyway, most people have probably heard this brilliant album. On this album, it's sort of like every second track is an interlude with some kind of atmospheric instrumental, but like really it all blends together so well as an album. Some of my favorite songs from this would probably be The Principle of Evil Made Flesh, the title track. The Forest Whispers My Name, brilliant track with the mid-paced atmosphere and everything. Also The Black Goddess Rises, a crescendo of passion bleeding, To Eve the Art of Witchcraft, of Mist and Midnight Skies, Summer Dying Fast. No, I nearly named the whole album, but like if you know this band, you'll know that on particular songs, they have so many like standout moments where you go, oh yeah, this part's coming up. You know, like whether it's like a vocal snarl or like some kind of keyboard line or some spoken word part, always something to keep you interested. But like really good. The way I would describe this is sort of like a atmospheric pseudo-symphonic black metal, but like with gothic and romantic elements too. But obviously this is a very influential album and definitely worth checking out if you haven't. So that's Cradle of Filth with the Principle of Evil made flesh. Okay, coming up next, I have another Cradle of Filth album. This is Dusk and Her Embrace. And now I remember, the other one came out in 94, this one came out in 1996. Okay, so first of all, this is quite interesting. The other day marks the 25th anniversary of this legendary album. Okay, and I will just get straight to the point with this. For me, this is hands down my favorite Cradle of Filth album. I just think it's got it all. Like, in comparison to the first one, when you hear this one, you realize how raw the first one actually was. Like this one, it's become a lot more elaborate, a lot more grandiose. They're incorporating a lot more classical elements, like a lot of string instruments, keyboards. You even hear harpsichord on this album in one of the songs, I remember. Yeah, so like just and those classical flourishes and romantic overtures, they've really delved deeper into that on this album. But like some people might say, oh, that must mean it sounds wimpy. No, absolutely not. It's just like it's more varied, it's more elaborate, it's more detailed. But really just such a great album. The songwriting has become a lot better. Like it's not as primitive as the first album. And really just some songs I would say like they're just masterpieces, or like this is an opus. It's like it's absolutely amazing. So I'm sure most of you have heard it anyway, but again, just like the debut album, there are so many standout moments on this album, like with certain parts of certain songs where it's, you know, you really get moved by the atmosphere. So like absolutely fantastic. Again, it's gothic, vampiric black metal, but I don't understand, like a lot of people, they resent bands for playing this kind of style, and my response to that is, wouldn't it be boring if every band sounded exactly the same? So like the fact that a band is doing something original and different, I can appreciate that, and variety is definitely a good thing. But yeah, as you can see here, amazing booklet again, really elaborate, intricate lyrics as well from Danny Filth. Like he's actually an accomplished poet. Like you read some of this, obviously these lyrics weren't written in 5 minutes. Like they took a lot of thought and they're extremely eloquent and everything. But I remember so this came out in 96 and I bought it late 97 I think, but I remember in the year 1998, this album, along with a handful of other albums, I just listened to every single day of that year, like without fail. And when I listen to it these days, I still get moved by those songs. Like it starts with a keyboard intro, Humana inspired to Nightmare, to set the dark tone, and then the first 3 main tracks after that are just like all killer. So Heaven Torn Asunder, Funeral in Carpathia, A Gothic Romance, Red Roses for the Devil's Whore. Those 3 tracks are just brilliant. So like straight away, it's a very strong start to the album. But honestly, again, no bad tracks on this album. Some of my other favorites are Nocturnal Supremacy, which is a recording from the Vampire EP, which I don't own. Nocturnal Supremacy is a stupid hidden track. Like, it's not a stupid track, but it's stupid the fact that it's hidden, so it messes up the ordering. But yeah, really great song. Also, Malice Through the Looking Glass, Dusk and Her Embrace, Beauty Slept in Sodom, and Haunted Shores, which has got like a very haunting, dark atmosphere at the end. But again, like this album, there's so many moments which come on when you actually hear it, like the female vocals or the spoken word parts, or just the like a piano solo or some symphonic part. It's just always something to keep you interested, and it's really detailed, eclectic, and diverse, but somehow it all manages to blend together to create this just massive stitchwork of brilliance. Like, it's an absolutely amazing album. So yeah, I won't say any more, just go and listen to it. But yeah, I think you won't be disappointed if you haven't heard it. That's Cradle of Filth with Dusk and Her Embrace. Okay, so believe it or not, they're the only Cradle of Filth albums I own. So what's the reason for that? I used to own Cruelty and the Beast, and then I sold it, which I actually regret, I'll admit, because Cruelty and the Beast is a very good album. I think it was just like at the time when I was discovering other bands and a different style in black metal, I just strayed away from it, I suppose. And I think it was also to do with the fact the drum sound on that album is really the production of the drums is really shit. Like, Nick Barker is a brilliant, accomplished drummer, but I don't know why the production, it just makes the drum sound like a typewriter, which is kind of annoying. So it's kind of a thin album, but if you get past that and listen to the music, it's brilliant. So Cruelty and the Beast, I want to buy it back. That's how good it is. And then, of course, with subsequent albums, they sort of became more, they went further down that gothic path. And I think it was like in the early 2000s, a lot of their albums people regarded as their worst or weaker ones. I won't comment, but I'll say like around about the time of Midian, I kind of lost interest. But having said that, I've heard like with the last few albums, they've really made a comeback to the old sound, so I'm keen to check those ones out. Also, the other day, I heard the new single from the new album. What's it called? King Crawling Chaos or something. But I was really amazed by that, so I'm excited to check out some of their new albums. But that's Cradle of Filth. All right. Up next, we've got a new band. As in, another one I'm going to talk about. This is Craft with Total Soul Rape. So, if you're not familiar, Craft are a Swedish black metal band which came about in the early 2000s. I think this album came out in 2003, something like that. I remember seeing this in my local record shop at the time it came out, and I just thought, based on that cover art, I'm pretty sure it's going to be good. And I bought it, was certainly not disappointed. Like, it's absolutely fantastic. This kind of band, this album, it sort of reminds you that when done right, black metal can still be frightening. And, you know, like quite shocking actually. Like, this is very caustic, harsh, evil, nasty sounding black metal. Like, it's very raw, and like the vocals are really sinister and evil. And yeah, it just invokes that dark, sort of like haunting, disturbing atmosphere, I would say. Like, where it's done so well. Like, some of these Scandinavian, Swedish bands, like, they do that so incredibly well. And you just think, how do they manage to invoke such a dark atmosphere? But they do. And this album is absolutely brilliant. What's interesting is, by looking at it, you'll think, yeah, they probably sound something like Darkthrone, and I think the guy here is wearing a Mayhem shirt. Yeah, you definitely hear influences from those bands, but it's not a carbon copy. What I like about it is the drum sound on this album. It's got a lot of punch and bite. Like, it's really bang in your face, like extremely aggressive. And then the guitars are actually heavy, so there's actually some depth to the music. It doesn't sound like a pissed off being a biscuit tin, you know? Like, it's got some balls and it's got some depth. Yeah, the punch of that drum sound is just like really incredibly effective on this. So also the vocals are totally wild and out of control, like not just like the raspy typical black metal vocals, but also like just like caustic shrieking and howling, where it actually sounds quite frightening and angry. So really amazing. Like, all songs on this are great. Mostly they're fast, but sometimes they slow down as well for some heavy parts. So in that sense, like a bit like early Darkthrone as well. So there's some variety to the rhythms. It's not all just monotonous and everything like that. But yeah, just a lot of fantastic moments of this album. I would definitely say that this is a beginning to end album to listen to. Like, but some of my favorite tracks, they're all good. But basically, pretty much the first four, like World of Plague, Death to Planet Earth, Desolation, Death, and Kill Everything. Yeah, just like, they are a punch in the face, those songs. So like, after that, you're just reeling, you know, punch drunk, like, wow, for the rest of the album, it's great. Total Soul Rape is also a good one, the title track. But, and then Vile has this really sort of dark, evil sounding outro. But, just a brilliant conclusion to a very dark, menacing, evil sounding album. So this is the only original one that I own by them, but I'm actually curious to get more. I know the other one, Terror Propaganda, that's another one that people like. But, yeah, if you like black metal done the old school way, but also with some extra venom, no pun intended, and bite, and like a really sort of caustic, evil sound, then definitely check this one out. That's Craft with Total Soul Rape. Alright, so the next couple of albums I'm going to talk about, I've actually mentioned in a previous collection update, so I'm not going to go into excessive detail about these next two albums, but that's probably a relief, right? Okay, so the next one I'm going to talk about, this is Crucified Models with Psalms of the Dead Choir. So, Crucified Models are a death thrash metal band from Ohio, USA, and as I said, I've spoken about them. Just very, I mean this in a good way, meat and potatoes death thrash. Like, it's definitely death metal with the vocal style, but musically also death metal, but taking a strong influence from thrash, particularly Slayer. So if you're a fan of Slayer, and let's face it, who isn't, then you'll probably like this. So imagine like a more death metal version of Slayer. That's how I would describe them. Really heavy production. The guitar sound is fantastic. The vocals are awesome. And also like it's just got some depth and bite to it as well. So like yeah, just very heavy death thrash. It's really, really good. And as I mentioned in the collection update video, it's sort of got the same, not only the same riffing style as Slayer, but also the same kind of vocal patterns. So if you like those rhythms and vocal patterns of Slayer, another reason to check this out. Also, other bands I could compare them to, definitely aspects of Malevolent Creation, particularly, what was that that album, The Fine Art of Murder, and also, I can't remember the other one, I'll put it down below, but yeah, aspects of those albums blended into this, and also aspects of the Brazilian band Rebellion, the death metal band. So imagine that, a melting pot, death thrash heavily influenced by Slayer, throw in a dash of Malevolent Creation and Rebellion, and you've got Crucified Models. So some of my favorite songs on this are Dusk of the Advent, Ominous Creatures, Kill Upon Command, and Bringer of Death. And they're pretty much the same ones I mentioned the last time I spoke about this. Bringer of Death has got a very Angel of Death influence, like riff-wise, and maybe that's an intentional tribute there with the name of the song, but very, very good album. Like I know it's nothing original, nothing groundbreaking, but sometimes if you just want, you're going after a particular style, and you get satisfied from a certain album, and I get that from this particular album. So absolutely brilliant. Crucified Models with Psalms of the Dead Choir. Okay, now this next one I've also, yeah, I've spoken about a couple of these before. Up next we have Cruel Force with the Rise of Satanic Might. So yes, I have spoken about this one in a previous collection video. However, never shown the CD. In one of my black metal vinyl videos, I talked about this album, so I own this one on vinyl too. However, I originally got this CD version first. Really nice artwork on this, with this there. And then of course, with the vinyl version, they didn't include all these lyrics or band portraits, so there's more photos in this one. Yeah. But really nice booklet. Cool group shot. I think that's on the vinyl version I have as well. And very nice iconic artwork. So again, I don't want to repeat myself too much, but Cruel Force are a black thrash band from Germany. So it's definitely, you can tell from the imagery, there's a black metal influence, especially lyrically, except it owes just as much to thrash metal as it does to black metal. And the band that they seem to be influenced by a lot is Bathory. Like they, on here they include a really good cover of Necromancy, the Bathory song, which is fantastic. And they also make lyrical references to Elizabeth Bathory a lot, so I think they were definitely inspired. And also I mentioned, it sort of reminds me a little bit of Garage Days Metallica, like, you know, when they Metallica did covers of songs like Helpless, like that heavy bouncy riffing style. Imagine that, like Bathory and old Metallica mixed together. And also the vocals, they're not raspy black metal vocals, they're more sort of like this guttural kind of bark, like a dog barking, like really gruff and echoey, but it just fits the music so well. But yeah, very catchy riffs, brilliant guitar solos, awesome drumming. This is like a black thrash assault, which is extremely catchy, very catchy songs, easy to even sing along to these songs, and it just keeps you interested throughout the album. Like, I got this in 2014, I never get bored of listening to it, and definitely from beginning to end, it's just great. Some of my favorite tracks though would be, as I mentioned on the vinyl video, Leather and Metal, great melodies on that song, and great riffs as well. Also the cover of Necromancy, Death Strike is a brilliant song, and great vitriolic lyrics on that song, definitely. Oh, just like I forgot to mention with the Craft album, the lyrics are full of vitriol as well. So yeah, Death Strike is also good in that respect. And then Victim of Hellfire, just reading the title, I want to sing the chorus of that, and March for the Pentagram. But the production is really raw and clattery. It sounds like they've recorded it in like an assembly hall or something, so it's got that echo and reverberation, but just awesome, like a dirty black thrash, which is extremely catchy. I just love this stuff. This band is fantastic, so definitely check them out if you haven't. That's Cruel Force with The Rise of Satanic Might. Alright. Alright, up next, this is an album that I've spoken about in a collection update as well, so I'll just be brief with this. This is Colt de Gaulle with Sinister. So Colt de Gaulle are a black metal band from Poland, and as I mentioned, they're very original. It's like kind of ritualistic black metal. A lot of it is slow to mid-pace, and it's, yeah, got this atmosphere where there's like invocations and chants going on, so it's quite theatrical actually, in a good way. And I think I also mentioned this as well, I can see some sort of comparisons to Abruptum a bit, especially because the vocals are sort of like pained and screechy and they're all over the place, and you know, they've got those kind of wails like Abruptum. But yeah, it invokes a very dark, evil, hammer horror kind of atmosphere, especially with the use of organs. They don't just use synthesizers or keyboards, but it sounds like traditional organs, so it's got that like dark, hammer horror-esque atmosphere, which is just brilliant. What I also like about this band is it's very much a wall of sound band. Like, they start off some songs really slowly and then they just add layers and layers, and there's so much going on. It's quite chaotic and in a way grating actually, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but like when you sit back and just listen, a song's been going on for 10 minutes, you realize how many elements have been added, and it's going, wow, there's just so much going on with this music, and it invokes a very powerful atmosphere, I find. So some of the songs, they do get a bit more mid-pace and sometimes fast, but it's like the slower parts make it really stand out as well. So yeah, booklet with lyrics here, picture. Yeah, so I would definitely say this band is not your run-of-the-mill typical black metal band. Very interesting. One thing I'll say is, it's not the kind of album I want to put on every day. Like, you have to be in the right mood for it. Especially, as I said, it's like, because sometimes it can come across as quite grating unless you're in that mindset, you know, for that chaotic kind of wall of sound. But very original and certainly unpredictable. It never gets boring, and just something original in comparison to a lot of bands these days. So check them out. That's Colt de Gaulle with Sinister. Okay, good. I'm managing to get through this faster than I thought, as I always say. Last but not least, one more CD to talk about today. Definitely not least. This is Darkified with A Dance on the Grave. Okay. Alright. So yes, Darkified are an absolutely amazing band, in my opinion. This is an old school Swedish black death metal band. So when I think about it, it's probably influenced more by death metal, but it definitely crosses over with elements of black metal. And it's famous because it features an ex-member of Marduk. So this here on the hype sticker, they say, Darkified, A Dance on the Grave. Swedish killer Black Death the way none has ever done. Includes a member of Marduk. And that member is, of course, Joachim af Grave, otherwise known as Jock Grave. He was the lead vocalist for Marduk on those awesome albums, some of my favorites being those of the Unlight and Opus Nocturna. He was also the drummer on those of the Unlight, but he had that really sort of harsh, raspy, whispery voice, which just sounded so unique. So I'm not sure what he does in this band. I'm assuming he also did vocals on this because it sounds kind of similar. But some very atmospheric artwork there. And picture of the band and lyrics, they say this is a tribute to ourselves. Fair enough. Okay, yeah, this actually consists of 2 releases. So the demo called Dark from 1991, and the Sleep Forever demo 7-inch from 1992. So it's a combination, 8 tracks all in all. And what you've got, it's got a very sort of Swedish death metal sound, but it's very raw and choppy and murky and like appropriately raw. The vocals are very like screamy, but at the same time, it's just that perfect sound. Like the production, the aggression, the vocals, everything blends together perfectly to create this very Scandinavian Black Death atmosphere. You'll know what I mean when you hear it. Like, it's got a very Swedish sound. So yeah, really good. Certainly not a polished band by any means. I think this is like one of the remnants of those like sort of cult bands from the early days, but really, really good release. So from the Dark album, you've got intro, Howling from the Darkness, A Summon for the Nameless Horrors, The Forgotten City, and outro, Out from the Darkness. All of those songs are so good. Literally all of them, I like them, and there are certain moments in those songs, like with the vocal parts, like which just stand out, like you go, oh yeah, this part's coming, and you want to sing along to it. Also, they use keyboards in the background, which is probably where the black metal element creeps in. And again, I know that just because a band uses keyboards doesn't make them black metal, but it does invoke that atmosphere in this album. But yeah, really, really good. The vocals are kind of like, a bit like Cruel Force, actually, like kind of harsh and gruff, like kind of a mid-range, like a sort of, yeah, barked a bit. But then in certain parts, he really shrieks and screams. They really sort of stand out. Yeah, definitely. Also, the Sleep Forever demo is brilliant. Like, it's a little bit more polished, so they also included a cover of, a re-recording of The Forgotten City, but both versions are great. But yeah, from beginning to end, this is a fantastic listen. My favorite songs on this would be Howling from the Darkness, A Summon for the Nameless Horrors, then Out from the Darkness. That is an extremely melodic, atmospheric track, makes you picture being in the woods in Sweden. That's how I feel. You know, surrounded by dark entities. Just listen to it and you'll know what I mean. And with all these echoey, harsh whispers and everything, it creates this really otherworldly atmosphere, which is fantastic. Now, the song Sleep Forever, I think that's one of the best songs ever written, honestly. Like, it's so good. When it reaches the climax of that song with the high-pitched scream and the marching riffs and the melodic guitars and the keyboards in the background, it's honestly an eargasm for me. Absolutely brilliant song. So, yeah, Sleep Forever. If there's one song you have to check out from this release, it's that one. But honestly, from beginning to end, a fantastic album. Well, not really album, but compilation, whatever you want to call it. So I got this back in '99. I'm not sure how easy it is to get hold of these days, but let me just say, if you manage to come across it, buy it. You will not be disappointed. So that's Darkified with A Dance on the Grave. Alright guys, thanks a lot for your patience. So I'm through those 7 albums, and that's all I'm going to talk about today. So, if you got through the video, congratulations, and thanks a lot. Thanks for your patience. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please don't forget to leave me a thumbs up to show me some support. I'd really appreciate it. Thanks as always for your support of the channel, and I hope you continue to watch. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. I'm very excited to say that in the next video, I'm going to do my first official ranking discography. So, you'll recall that I kind of did one with Burzum, but it was not complete because I was only talking about a certain era of Burzum. But the next band I'm going to talk about, going down the alphabet, I have all of their full lengths. So I'm going to do an official ranking discographies, and I'm really excited to do that. I hope you stick around to watch that. So until then, take care, stay safe, and I'll talk to you soon. See you later.